activities like these cannot continue on, cannot happen without the support of our sponsors. And in this case, it is my pleasure, it's my honor to recognize the presenting sponsor for this activity, Boeing Company. And we truly are grateful for their support, and they have been very supportive in many different ways of American Society for Engineering Education. Later this afternoon or at lunchtime, you will have a guest speaker or keynote speaker from Boeing Company, Mr. Bill Lyons, and he'll be speaking with you about that. But at this point, let me introduce a good friend of mine, Mr. Howard Appelman. Howard is Boeing Company's focal to the American Society for Engineering Education. He's based in St. Louis. He's been a big supporter of International Forum for many, many years. He's also a big supporter of engineering education in general. There's one thing beyond that is Howard and I go back many, many years. I could say almost decades, but we don't want to show our age in this crowd, so we'll say just years. Given the fact that he's based in St. Louis, and prior to joining ASEE, I was in St. Louis for 24 years at a 2-year college and involved in manufacturing and engineering technologies and engineering. And when you are in St. Louis, Boeing becomes automatically, and involved in education, Boeing automatically becomes part of your life. And so Howard and I have worked together on many projects over the years, and we have known each other actually we lived in the same neighboring subdivision, and we always joke about it. If we didn't see each other for a while, we definitely saw us at 7 o'clock in the morning when the polling booth opened, because our voting precinct was in the same area, so we always saw each other there. So we exchanged greetings at that point. But again, Howard has been a big supporter of this activity. At this point, I want to turn the podium over to Howard. Howard, please.
Thank you. Thank you for those kind remarks, Ashok. And yes, it is our pleasure to be here and for the Boeing Company to sponsor this event. And of course, it takes a lot more than a sponsorship to make an event like this happen. And I did want to recognize the entire steering team, the advisory committee for this international forum. And I believe everyone's here. Sigrid Berker from University of Rhode Island is here. Thank you. And also Wayne Davis is here. And Linda Crute is over here. You'll see her. And Phil Sanger. And Phil is here too. So we've with the support of Stephanie Harrington Hurd, and with the rest of is here, and the rest of the staff from ASEE, I think we've put together what should be an interesting program for you all. It includes the support from our partner organizations for this event, plus what I think are some very interesting papers, high-quality papers that are really focused on the theme, which I think you'll all find very interesting. And so with that, I will start again to thank our three partner organizations, the Indo-US Collaboration for Engineering Education, ASEE, and the Russian Federation for Engineering Pedagogy. So all of these partner organizations have will be presenting, their perspectives from their particular countries and regions, and in order to be able to share with you that information. Before I introduce our first speaker, I did want to just remind everybody that there was an addendum here, and so there are some additional papers that have been added that were not in the original booklet, and that they just didn't get into the booklet in time. So be sure to look for these additional speakers, including at lunch. We have a special guest from UNESCO, Ravani Sigamoni, who will be speaking about the UNESCO project. So we can all look forward to that at lunch. So with that, I wanted to introduce Hans Hoyer, and Hans Hoyer is the Secretary General of IFES, International Federation for Engineering Education Society, as well as the Executive Secretary of the Global Engineering Deans Council, and also from Marquette University. So without any further delay, I'll ask Hans to come up.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Let me bring up your slides.
Okay, where do you push the button to move this forward? This one there, right, just as simple as that. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and particularly to see many, many very close and good friends here, which shows, it reinforces the work that the International Forum, the leadership of ASEE, Stephanie, this leadership committee has been doing for several years to bring together colleagues, friends of the global community into building trust, what I call to continue to build what I call win-win strategies, that we can cross borders, diminish some of the complexities of communications and the issues that all of us engaged in. As some of you may know, I've been part of the ASEE community directing their global work until about 3 years ago, when we moved the secretariat of both IFES, the International Federation. We have several leaders of IFES right here, and also the Global Engineering Deans Council. We're invited to be at Marquette University. Always our vision had been in the beginning, when we formed IFES in 2006 and GDC in 2008, to obviously keep very close, an appreciative relationship with ASEE, but we're very happy that Marquette then extended the invitation. So what I want to do, just very briefly, of course, we'll have a chance over the next few days to interact, to talk, to network, build relationships, build partnerships, and so forth. I just want to give you a little bit of an oversight of some of the events that we are very deeply engaged in catalyzing globally. You can see that you're indeed very much part of a global community, and certainly exemplified by the presence of many of you and the overall conference. Let me see if I can move this forward here. A key, in a sense, I'm wearing both of the hats of the International Federation, which catalyzed the formation of the Global Deans Council in Paris two years afterwards. And under the umbrella of IFES, we formed something called a capacity building institution. A couple of our friends, I don't see Jennifer from Purdue, she's not here with us this morning, is one of the co-directors here. Let me just take each of the events globally. So we have a very close partnership, and have had for several years, with Tsinghua University. And we will be offering several workshops this summer at that university, as we've done for the last 4 years, bringing in colleagues, mainly faculty members throughout China. And we work very closely with the Chinese Society for Engineering Education, which is an IFES member, and working through them and Tsinghua University, their School of Engineering Education per se. That's coming up, and there's a couple of the foci of the workshop. There's global competence, ethics, and authentic learning, and so forth. And some of you may have the chance to meet Jennifer during this conference here. The next one, we work very, very closely. A key leader in India here is Professor Krishna Vedula, and there are several other Indian colleagues and friends that are here. We've been very closely working with something called the Indian Society for Technical Education, a very large organization covering the entire nation, and we're talking about several 100,000 people that are members of that. And again, we have some members of that institution here. And under that umbrella, they have formed an Indian Deans Council, as well as the Indo-US Collaborative of Engineering Education, which Krishna Vedula, who is present here, leads. Both have formed Indian Deans Councils that bring together this incredible, large, dynamic, complex, challenging community of engineering deans. And what we've been working with and been very closely with ISTE, and a conference coming up now in Chennai, where we focus mainly following up on a workshop we had with the World Bank, with the various ministries of the Indian government, academia, Infosys, and IFES member, looking at India Engineering Education 2025. In a sense, help articulate elements of a strategy for the third phase of the TechWhip program, which has been supported by the World Bank over the last 8-9 years. We are talking about huge amounts of money, over half a billion and so forth, per se. So many of the critical issues facing Indian society and the engineering education, in a sense, we are taking that agenda that we identified in Bangalore just about 6 months ago, and we'll continue in Chennai, just to give you a sense. We have about, I'm not quite sure what the exact number will be, probably about 500-600 of deans, and we've also invited some of our friends from Europe, Australia, North America, Latin America, and so forth, to bring also a global international perspective to that meeting. And I work very, very closely, with the leaders there. The other one is very interesting. We work very closely with IFES member Abenji, and some of you may know it's sort of the equivalent of ASEE in the context of Brazil. They've been a member of IFES, and we have very close friendships and so forth. And also working with the Ministry of Science and Technology of the Brazilian government and various other organizations. And what we're doing in September, bringing together about 3,000-4,000 individuals per se to look at fundamental issues related to the IT revolution, online learning, MOOCs, and what have you. And what we're doing is we're bringing together, helping them facilitate, identify some cutting-edge individuals working globally on these issues, bringing them to Brazil, because there's a lot of resistance, a lot of discussions in Brazil on this particular issue. The other key issue has to do with sustainability, water, energy, and what have you. We're working with several universities in North America, Israel, and so forth, bringing some expertise there. Very, very, very interesting. And personally, I spent quite a bit of time both with the Indian and in the Brazilian context, per se. Cartagena, our friends will be here from coffee. Some of you know will have their 40th anniversary in Cartagena, which is the northern part where we had our WEF in 2013. And again, we have some, particularly a couple of European and American deans will be part and participating in that conference, per se. I'm very excited in working in close partnership with the newly created African Engineering Deans Council. Its Secretary General, a close friend, good colleague, who also leads the Nigerian Deans Council. We're bringing together, probably for the first time, the deans, the engineering deans in Africa. And that's an exciting task, working in partnership with the National Academy of Engineering, working IFES, GDC, working together. And we're, again, without going to the details, in Addis Ababa, we are very, very pleased also in the process of catalyzing the formation of the first Ethiopian Engineering Deans Council, which will be meeting at that particular time. Again, personally, and after this meeting and so forth, I'm very happy, and I'm also pleased. We're linking it to AfriCon, which is the IEEE conference, just 3 days before that, and we're linking that, and we're quite excited about how this is coming together. So I'm giving you just a tiny bit of information. It gives you some insight, and in terms of how the ASEE community indirectly, and many members that have been part of our IFES and GDC community are engaged in. Obviously, this is not exclusive. These are just some examples, particularly that the Secretariat is very closely involved in. These are some of the topics that we're in the process of conceptualizing. Also, we're working very closely. I'm very pleased with the partnership with the Mayo Clinic, looking at the grand challenges, and certainly health is a critical issue to that. And these are some of the topics: industry, academic collaboration, and partnerships in Africa. Lighting up Africa through renewable energy is a critical topic there. Upgrading engineering education in Africa by focusing the curriculum on the African grand challenges. Just to give you some sense, and hear some of the further details of that conference. I'm very, very pleased to share that, for you to be aware of that, and obviously through our websites and social media and so forth, we'll be providing further information. What we did, and still under the umbrella of ASEE per se, we trademarked something called the World Engineering Education Forum in Singapore, and some of you may remember in 2010. And we have continued the tradition to have the World Engineering Education Forum since Singapore 2010. We'll have it this year in Florence, where we'll bring together about 10 organizations, and some of members very active here that are present here, and partners also of ASEE, focusing on the fundamental issue of resilience in a broader sense. One dimension, I'm working very closely with several scientists and engineers and all that are currently doing work, very important, critical work in Nepal, some of you know Nepal. I've lived and worked in Nepal myself, and to see what is happening there, the complexities, and then how engineers, working obviously with other disciplines and so forth, are working in that. That's a critical issue among other issues. I'm very pleased. We bring together also our colleagues of Central Asia, building very strong dynamic engineering education networks. Many of the Latin American institutions, such as LACSE, which are represented here by Jaime Bonilla and Maria La Ronda and ACOFI and various others, will also have sessions in terms of looking strategically at some of the issues of engineering education in Latin America during the Florence event. Working very, very closely, the Global Engineering Deans Council. By the way, I've brought quite a bit of material. Some of you, of course, know these organizations, some are not. I've brought lots of materials in the back. It's free. I'm not charging it. Please take it, share it with your friends and colleagues as you go back, as you get back home. Working with Adelaide University, the current chair of the Global Engineering Deans Council, John Bainan, in Adelaide. This is our annual meeting of the Global Engineering Deans Council, where we bring together roughly 250 to 300 engineering deans, primarily, also some government policymakers. Obviously, we have very close partnerships with corporations and so forth. Very, very excited about that. It's coming together very nicely. I want to bring to your attention, and particularly since our deadline for submission is at the end of the month of June, and I have materials out there, we're very, very excited and very proud. We've very successfully run something called the GDC Airbus Diversity Award, bringing together, trying to identify the most creative talents globally in terms of this critical fundamental issue per se. And those of you engaged in these issues, if you know of some creative individuals that have really made an impact in their respective institutions, in their respective countries and what have you on this issue, you can see some pictures here of the last two women who won these awards from both the United States and Australia per se. We'll have the third one, again, without going into details. But look at the materials that I'm leaving with you, and I think this is all that I want to share with you. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share with this community the work that we're doing. Thank you kindly.
Thank you, Hans, and appreciate you sharing that with us. And now I would like to introduce our first of our plenary sessions. And if I can call up the slides here, our first plenary session, and just introduce you and welcome, and call up your team here. Krishna, thank you.
I want to thank you and Boeing for sponsoring this session, which is an extremely important session, as you've seen from what Hans has told us. Some very exciting things going on in the world. And global engineering education is why you're here on a Sunday morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, so thank you all for being here. My name is Krishna Vidula. I'm based at the University of Massachusetts at Lowell. And I'd like my team to come on up here one by one. First, let me introduce my colleagues from India, Professor Kanmani and Professor Meena from Bangalore. And they'll be part of the panel that we will have talk about some of the initiatives that we have. Please have a seat. And then we have colleagues from the United States, Professor Stephanie Farrell from Rowan University, and Professor Vijay Kanabar from Boston University. Please give them a big round of applause so we can just get everybody energized. What I would like to do is set the stage with a few minutes of my own slides. And then each one of them will talk a little bit from their perspective as what they're doing in this collaborative environment to promote lifelong learning among engineering colleges and students in India, as well as collaborations with the United States. I stepped down from the Dean of Engineering's job about almost 8 years ago, and I went back to the classroom, and so I took this up as my challenge. I saw that there are 4,000 engineering colleges in India, huge population, 4,000 engineering colleges, and the challenge is when you have quantity, quality becomes an issue. So quality of engineering education requires that a lot of stuff should come together. So we started this very small effort called the Indo-US Collaboration for Engineering Education. And I believe there are some things that we've been doing the last 5-6 years that facilitate lifelong learning. And I'll spend a few minutes on telling you a little bit about those. What we have taken the approach is to build an ecosystem, as I call it. Just like in order to get plant to grow and flowers and fruits, you need rain, clouds, sunshine, fertilizer, tender loving care, etc. So we said an ecosystem for lifelong learning requires outcomes-based education, some conferences like this, certification programs. We have journals for publication, global network, virtual communities. So these are what we're trying to build over the last 5-6 years. We've built several of these pieces in a small way. It's a small effort, but hopefully it'll keep growing into a large plant with lots of fruits and flowers. Started with a group of well-meaning individual philanthropists, individuals and corporations, both India and in this country, with the help of my friend Hans Hoyer, in fact, one of the initial founders of this organization. And so I think sometimes it has a mind of its own. So fortunately, we were able to get some money to. Sorry about that. So we started this program, and now it is a sustained with membership of the several colleges all over India. Okay, so these are some faces that are collaborating. About 200 or 300 of these faculty from all over the world, largely from the United States, that work closely with faculty and colleges all over India. And we have about 80 colleges of engineering all over India who work closely as part of this global network that we have created. So what are some of the things that we do as part of the ecosystem? One example is a lot of faculty go from this country, from different parts of the world, and give workshops, face-to-face workshops, and that leads to a lot of effective learning. And, oops, I'm sorry about that. It seems to be a little bit strange. Okay. And this face-to-face is very critical for learning to happen, but we found that it's expensive, and so we also have virtual means of doing this through webinars, and we have recordings of these. And then we have them available for the various people to see. Then we have these conferences which we organize. One is one we had in Hubli, and there's a third one that's coming up in Pune, and we want to invite you all to that conference in January if you have the time to come to India. And then we have these partnerships with, I don't know why this is, it's probably on some automatic mode. We collaborate with the Global Engineering Deans Council, SPEED, that we have student chapter, ASEE, and there are lots of different activities going on in these areas. And so I just want to talk a little, introduce you to the group that's going to make the presentations. First is by Dr. Stephanie Farrell from Rowan University on innovative teaching and learning. Outcomes-based education, Dr. Kanmani from BMS College of Engineering. Collaboration with industry and the community by Professor Meena from BMS College of Engineering. Innovation and partnership by Pradeep Vechal. He unfortunately could not come at the last minute. He had to cancel. And then we have Vijay Kanabar, management, project management. So with that, I'll start with Dr. Stephanie Farrell. I hope this doesn't keep moving on you also. Okay.
Thank you.
You should be okay.
Oh, Krishna, did you want to do this?
Just press the space button.
Just one slide there. You okay? Yeah. Okay, we're going to make it a little bit interactive, so she's going to pass around a sheet of paper where you can take some notes, so that when we end, we'll have a 15 minutes for discussion, and hopefully some of your ideas will have a little together session. Yes.
We'll be calling on people.
What's that?
We'll be calling on people.
Absolutely. We'll call you up to discuss. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, you're on.
okay. All right, good morning, everybody, and thanks for coming here so bright and early, so we could be together for this symposium. So I'm looking forward to the interactions, and I wanted to share with you some of the things that I've been involved with IUCEE regarding innovation in teaching and learning in engineering education. So specifically, we're talking about lifelong learning with engineering educators. Okay, so we're going to take a step back to the Middle Ages. This is a classroom at the University of Bologna in the mid-1300s, and this was a pretty typical scenario. Manuscripts were very, very rare in those days. So the way a classroom worked is a lecturer would come and read the manuscript to the students, who very diligently took dictation and made their own copies of the lecture, which was basically whatever was in the manuscript. The students themselves were very privileged members of the ruling class or clergy, and they were basically being trained to be the intellectual and moral elite of the society. Well, do these students look engaged in the classroom? If you look at this guy here, he's sleeping, right? And this one back here, whoops, I did not do that.
Seems to be on some kind of a
I'm a witch. Okay. Yeah, maybe it's on the timer, so keep me on track.
No, I do that deliberately.
Up at the top of the screen, that person is texting. So a little bit like a classroom of today. Okay. Well, we need a change. In the 1400s, Gutenberg invented the printing press. The printing press made those manuscripts, which were once rare. Now, all of a sudden, they're available to the masses. So everybody had access to education. And this actually was probably the first step towards paving the road towards universalization of education. So this resulted in a change in our students. The students are no longer the privileged students of the ruling class or members of the clergy, the obedient ones of the 1300s, but regular people like us. Also, we had the Industrial Revolution a couple hundred years ago, so now we have to meet the needs of industry. It also, the printing press, I think, started a revolution in teaching practice, or at least a potential revolution in teaching practice, because the lecturer no longer had to be a lecturer. Whoops. The lecturer could really be an educator, because now the students had access to those manuscripts, which they could very well read on their own. So this could change the way an educator could interact with the students and help them construct knowledge and understanding. Well, back to the idea of the Industrial Revolution and the needs of industry. Both industry as well as the accreditation bodies are looking at the skills that engineers need, and it really parallels the skills that all business is looking for. It's the current needs focus not only on the disciplinary content, but a variety of other skills that make engineers valuable in a global context. So these skills are attributes taken from the project called the Attributes of a Global Engineer project. In addition to the technical content, there's communication skills, teamwork, leadership skills, an understanding of ethics in a global context, and the impact of engineering on society, and all of these things. So this should really impact the way we teach. So fast forward to current practices. And we see that in many classrooms around the world, the way engineering is taught really hasn't changed that much. So, what do we do about this? There are many research-based instructional strategies. We have a lot of knowledge about how students learn and how we can teach more effectively, but the problem is getting people to implement it. Faculty members resist change, in case no one had noticed that. So We have conferences, we have a variety of opportunities to learn about research-based instructional strategies and change the way we teach, but it's hard to do. It's hard to fit into a busy schedule, and we encounter obstacles along the way when we try new things. So we look for ways to support faculty in these changes. And as Krishna mentioned, there are 4,000 engineering schools across India. So the problem is really in a large scale when you talk about how to impart this sort of knowledge and practice among such a large number of engineering faculty who are in the exact same position that we're in the United States and around the world. A lot of technical training and very little training as teachers. So that's one of the challenges that we all face in academia. And so I've been working with IUCEE on how to address this problem specifically in India. And how to teach in a way that supports the learning outcomes that industry is demanding. Okay, so one of the things that we did, I'm going to mention 3 different things. IUCEE has done many, but these are 3 that I've been involved in. One was a workshop at the last conference that Krishna talked about that was in Bangalore in 2015. And we brought in 6 presenters to present on different topics related to engineering education, practice in the classroom, teaching practice. And how to incorporate different innovative pedagogies into the engineering classroom. So we had, I would say about 50 participants, is that about right? Okay, in that workshop, and then a very enthusiastic response to that workshop and a lot of follow-on discussions. One thing though about workshops, they're great for getting people to be familiar with new ideas, but then actually implementing them in the classroom is another story. When people leave a workshop, they have a couple ideas probably that they can implement effectively, but the rest might require more support before they become really wide users, in this case, of research-based instructional strategies. So, you have like journals, conferences, and workshops that get people so far towards change, but then really for bigger change, you need more ongoing support, and that's that last big mountain that we have to climb. And so a couple of things that IUCEE did. At that same conference, in one of the plenary talks, I talked about this project that I was involved in with ASEE. That was the Virtual Community of Practice project. And we decided to modify that and run a trial in India this last spring. So basically, the Virtual Community of Practice it's an online community, but rather than just being a learning community or a community of interest, it's really a community of practice where people come because they want to make a particular change. So people join the community with goals, and then the community supports them in reaching those goals. And then the third thing that I've been involved in is the IUCEE teacher certification. And this is based on a model that was developed by EGIP and is offered in many countries around the world. But in India, we did it online. It was actually a blended format. Under the direction of Dr. Veena Kumar, who is just finishing the certification program now this weekend as we talk. So the IUCEE teacher certification program, it was a 19-week-long program where participants were faculty members, they were teaching courses, and they learned as they went along through the semester, learned new techniques to integrate into their courses. They tried the techniques in their classes. They developed a portfolio, made reflections for how to improve the courses next year as well. And in doing that, they learned about 6 different aspects of engineering pedagogy. Very, very practical, but all research-based. So there were 36 participants who completed this pilot program, and the program was really successful, and so we're going to scale up and do another program for 9 months starting at the end of August for the next semester. So many people were involved in that as leaders of the different modules, and Krishna was an organizer and Veena Kumar was the director. But I think this is a really exciting new direction, and the online aspect and asynchronous learning made it really possible for the faculty members to fit it into their already busy schedule. So with that, I will stop, and we will move on to Kanmani.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. I guess we go next to Professor Kanmani. Do you want to take a minute to check out if we can
Let me see. Did it
stop moving on its own?
Did the auto
I didn't do anything, so I think it probably is still.
It's okay?
No, I think it's still going.
It's still going? Okay, so
It must be a timer.
we'll give you 1 minute to write something down about what you've heard so far while Vijay, our technical expert, comes and takes out the bug from there.
Let's see, slideshow, set up slideshow, and then automatic advance, we want to disable it, make it manual.
Manual, right here.
Yeah, it says automatic
Up
here.
here, say manual.
Yeah, so we have to say manual.
Got it.
Click
Awesome.
OK.
All right,
And
all
then,
done.
thank you. From the current slide. Okay. Start from this slide. Is that okay?
Thanks, Vijay.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm here to say something about lifelong learning, our experiences in trying to introduce it into the curriculum. I thought initially I would spend some time on bringing out the highlights of our association with IUCE, and later on focus on lifelong learning. So our journey with IUCE started way back in 2008 through our faculty attending the live faculty training programs at Infosys campus. We got awareness of the website cnx.org, and our faculty have uploaded modules onto that. And I'm happy to say that some modules are doing very well with the popularity of over 90%. And the faculty training initiatives, we had the opportunity of Indian faculty participate and handle some sessions in 2010, and VMS has contributed faculty for those programs. We also had the opportunity to host an event in 2012, and one big event that happened was having the webinars into our classroom. So we had, I've just listed a few experts, few webinar speakers here, but we have more than 20 webinars that have happened in our department alone. In a live classroom, we just had to reschedule, and then students could also interact, ask a question, and this is something and this really makes a student understand that equations in a course is similar no matter where we read. And of course, we did participate in the first conference in Hubli. We had the opportunity to host the second conference in our campus, and with collaboration from various organizations. And one of the pre-conference workshop in the conference was on outcomes-based education, where again BMS had the opportunity to handle one session in the workshop. And this association has brought us to this conference to share our experiences in this domain of lifelong learning. And now once we speak lifelong learning, some questions that come up immediately to us is why do we need lifelong learning? What is lifelong learning, and how do we introduce it in the curriculum? So immediately after graduation, the student pursues a professional career, and he may pursue it in an industry, in a government organization, research organization, as an employee or as an entrepreneur. But no matter where he pursues and in what capacity, there is a need for him to update on the recent developments in the domain, maybe to learn a tool understand what is happening, the norms of the organization, and what is the development happening in the domain, and also developments and activities of competing organizations. And hence, he has to engage in independent study, or only then he can be a successful professional. And this becomes a need for a good professional career. This has been identified, and hence we have the accrediting agencies or the bodies have it as one of the essential attributes for engineering education. We have the attribute I of the EBIT criteria, emphasize on lifelong learning. Similarly, the National Board of Accreditation India has attribute 12, emphasize on lifelong learning. And hence, what we see it is, we would just define it as an ability to engage in independent learning or self-study, and which is beyond the conventional teaching learning process that happens in the classroom, or maybe even flipped classroom. So now the question that comes is, having seen the need for lifelong learning, how do we try to introduce it in the engineering education? Can we have a course on lifelong learning, its needs, its benefits, and why is it required? We will all agree that this is not a way in which we develop the attribute, and hence this is not a method that we have adopted. What we thought is, no matter where the student is, we have a curriculum and we have courses, so we need to address it through the course outcomes. And what activities can we have as part of self-study or independent learning? We can ask him to read a manual. We can ask him to learn to use a tool. We can ask him to listen to a talk or watch a video or take a course, read a research article. Now, having asked a student to read, we need to know that he has read, and hence it has to be associated with a suitable assessment. And when we go in for assessment, some possible activities that can form part of the assessment are, maybe we ask him to deliver a seminar, submit a report, or demonstrate a way in which he has taken to it. So now I have some examples of what we have done in the last 2 years to develop this attribute in our students. Here we have, where the activity is read and the assessment is through a seminar and submission of a report. The first course that we have here is an analog electronics course, a 3rd semester course, wherein the students were asked to submit a report on activities, topics related to the course, and on, say, electronic components, e-waste management, and e-waste hazards. So we had, our class strength is around 60, and we had 60 students give 60 seminars, different seminars. The topics are decided and arrived at in consultation with the course instructor. And so some of them addressed on e-waste hazards, the how to manage e-waste, and some on the components are available for various specifications. So the first attempt, what happened was, every student giving a 5-minute seminar took away a lot of faculty time and student time. So the next year, when the same attempt was done, it was modified to the student recording a 3-minute video and putting it on a system identified in the lab. So all the students can take anybody else's seminar if they want, and the faculty goes through the seminar and then evaluates it. So it saved time. So it's a continuous evaluation, improvement in the way we implement it. Here I've just listed 3 courses, but we have done it in many courses. Another small modification where the self-study resulted in demonstration and implementing an open-ended experiment, some discrete time signal processing. Here again, here he involves and he comes out with the demonstration of an experiment. So, we in our institution, we normally define course outcome once in 2 years. And what if we have not defined a course outcome, but we still want to address the self-study or the lifelong learning attribute? So then we have the provision of addressing it purely through the assessment tools of the course. Now, for example, the course on microcontrollers, the faculty gave an article and asked the student to write the abstract for the article. For the course on wireless communication, we received some papers and then from the IEEE and then pass it on to the students read it, and then we conduct a quiz. Similarly, in network analysis, the faculty played a video of the NPTEL video in the class and gives a quiz. Digital communication, the QAAA initiative, we have again a live interaction, like what the IUCE gets a live webinar. We have the lectures from the IIT professors, and those lectures are taken to the classroom and we conduct a quiz. So the faculty and the students engage, and they have an assessment. Like very recently, a few months ago, I received a mail from the Government of India on the norms of email. So immediately I passed it on to my students, and this was made part of an assessment on the course computer communication networks. So they are aware of the norms, what is allowed and what is not permitted. So the paper which I had mentioned, and these are free papers by IEEE, so they get introduced. So the method that we have adopted, we started off with few courses and then enhanced it. Now what we find is these methods can be introduced in all courses. And when introduced in most courses, what happens is it becomes a habit to engage in independent learning. And when he graduates, we feel that he has acquired the necessary skill in pursuing a successful professional career. And although our focus has been on addressing the lifelong learning attribute, what happens is through the assessments that accompany the definition of the self-study component, we are indirectly addressing communication skills. We are creating awareness on environment, society. We can also create an awareness on the professional ethics. He is getting introduced to the contemporary developments and issues and the norms that are suggested, recommended by the professional bodies or the government organizations. And this journey with our BMSCE, with the IUCE continues, and we are in the learning phase, and we have grown significantly from what we were before our association. We thank Professor Krishna Vedula for introducing this two-country collaboration, and we are happy to be part of it, and thanks for the opportunity, and we continue to contribute to quality engineering education. Thank you.
Now we have Professor Meena.
Good morning. I'm humbled by the presence of many distinguished people in the audience and on the dais. And I thank the organizers and the sponsors for the opportunity provided to me to present. What I would be presenting is an experience of a tripartite, so a three-dimensional collaborative effort, industry, academia, and community to enhance the lifelong learning experience. So I have drawn the strength and inspiration from the BMS IUCE Association, which began way back in 2009 when I attended a Faculty Leadership Institute program at Mysore, and then followed by subsequent workshops at Bhimavaram and other places. I take this opportunity to salute the trendsetters of this transformative movement, Professor Krishna Vedula, the Executive Director of IUCE, and Dr. Mallikarjun Babu, who is our principal. These are two people who have stood for this transformative movement. And the transformation started when I attended the course, and the IUCE mantra that came into being, in my being, and that is, I am teaching, are they learning? So this is where I started looking at how I can make a difference to the teaching that I do at BMS College of Engineering. And the IUCE initiative in support of assistive technology at Vishnu College of Engineering, Andhra Pradesh, was the inspiration to move into a project in the area of assistive technology. It was Professor Alan Rux, founder of Assistive Technology Program at the University of Massachusetts Lowell, who started supporting the assistive Technology Lab at Andhra Pradesh, which really inspired me to take up this project. The pinnacle of our association with Indo-US Collaboration of Engineering Education was the conference that we had in January at Bangalore. And I had the opportunity to coordinate the pre-conference workshop on industry-academia partnerships. And we had Professor Luni Morrell and Dr. Guru Subramaniam from the University of Dayton, who chaired the session. And we had distinguished panelists from 11 multinational companies who contributed a lot in terms of ideas, how we could nurture the industry-academia partnership, what are the steps to be taken to, consummate that in very good outcomes. Engineering education, we know, is the prime focus of most nations, and the prime focus is on the development of astute and dexterous professionals who are responsive to societal needs. And even though educators have included many teaching strategies, inclusive teaching strategies that have improved the learning experience, I personally feel experiential learning that is provided through opportunities to connect with community and industry do result in lifelong learning. And as you see, the cartoon over there shows how do we do better here to help the world out there. And the magic potion or the magic ingredient is lifelong learning. So the focus of this presentation is an attempt to bring forth a sort of a panoramic view of the learning experience that was imparted to students through a multidisciplinary project titled Design and Development of a Smart Chair for People with Restricted Mobility, which was undertaken through a collaboration with ASEE Brown Boveri, BMS College of Engineering, and community. So the stages involved in the process of connecting people, ideas, and resources. The first stage was the user survey, the literature survey, the brainstorming sessions with industry people, industry experts, user research, and from that we brought in a financial estimation of the project, and then we went into the prototyping, where we had the proof of concept testing, and then we looked at the sustainability of the invention. So there were so many features that we compared, cost versus features. Okay, you have a noble idea, but then how is it financially viable? And we looked at system integration. So that was an aspect that was never there in our paradigm, and we looked at that. We looked at bringing in engineering simplicity, and then the technology alternatives and trade-offs. And we also published our findings in many international conferences and journals. So some of the surveys, so the students were engaged in a lot of survey that they did with the community. And through the survey, what the students did was they created questionnaires. We got in touch with a non-governmental organization called Samarthanam Trust in Bangalore, which was catering to the development of people with restricted mobility. So the students started kind of classifying people with restricted mobility belonging to different categories: paraplegics, quadriplegics, people with cerebral palsy, and people with amputations. And they created questionnaires, different questionnaires for different categories of people, and they were able to sift through the information that was obtained through the survey and then make a statistical assessment of the requirements of different categories of people. They also were able to categorize the requirements based on the cost preferences of the people that they interviewed. The modules that were developed after the survey by the students where, there was a the hardware component of it was the whole mechanical structure of the chair, which was developed by the mechanical engineering students who were part of this project. And then we had the controller, the main controller, which was based on a Raspberry Pi platform. And there were various control modules which was developed based on the requirement that was obtained from the survey. The accelerometer-based module was based on movement, the body movement of the person using the chair, and this was mainly for people with quadriplegia. The phone-based control using DTMF, this was mainly for people with cerebral palsy who depended on their caretakers to operate the movement of the chair. The chin control was also for people with quadriplegia. Control of the chair using joystick. voice-based control, and internet-based control. So these were the various control modules which was developed in modular form and integrated into the chair. And we had various other components, utilities and features that were not explicit, but that was the information that was implicit available to the students through the survey. So some of them wanted a urine bag indicator, and then they wanted a reminder, calendar, entertainment system on the chair. So these things were included, and then the perception system using obstacle detection and indoor mapping. So the students got to use IoT for this. So the video which was captured by the video camera was streamed, and it gave a sense of direction, and then the Google information maps was attached to it in order to have a feel of the position of the wheelchair. And then there was a navigation button that was brought in on the web page to steer the wheelchair. So the skills that were imparted through this project, the students learned to team, not only amongst themselves, but amongst students from various multidisciplinary groups. They learned to connect with the community, they learned to interact, they had to intrude a little into the requirements of the people. They learned to create, they learned to reflect, and they also learned to adapt to new technologies, which I believe has contributed to a lot of their lifelong learning, which would stay for them for quite some time. Thank you. This is what I had to present.
Thank you, Professor Meena. Now we have Professor Vijay Kanabar from Boston University.
Hello, good morning. We passed around, since I'm the last presenter, we passed around a handbook with some questions for you to document. And we are pretty much running on schedule here, so you may want to gel your thoughts down on the few topics that we have talked about, whether it's innovative education, learning outcomes, and certainly the opportunity we have now is to hear a little bit about the common glue between all of these, and that is project management education, or the art and science of managing projects when it comes to engineering education. So I'll probably describe my role here within the context of introducing a global curriculum from the Project Management Institute, and I'll also describe some of the key attributes of this global curriculum, and will suggest ways in which this framework, as well as free resources that come with the framework, can be used at your university. But before we continue, there's some very interesting statistics that is of interest to all of us. Managing projects, all kinds of projects, requires competency, and by 2020, there will be a shortage of qualified professionals who can work in disciplines such as engineering or computer science and work very productively. So the workforce certainly needs all the competence they can get within the context of PM education. So Project Management Institute funded more than $1 million worth of effort to produce this PM curriculum and resources guideline. As an academic, you can, as members of academia, you can download this document for free. I don't know if the URL is around, but it's simply pmiteach.org, and it's a 300-page document that provides you the opportunity to download good curriculum as well as resources that can help you manage a project, whether it's an experiential project that we heard of from panelists, or its dedicated lifelong learning project. All of those can be managed very effectively. One of the key reasons, this is an effort by faculty for faculty. One of the reasons we embarked on this is we felt that any project, whether it's a capstone project or if it's an internship project, can be implemented and executed better if very clearly the students are given some curriculum outline and some clear learning outcomes. This will help them manage a project and succeed. Especially the curriculum focuses on some of the soft skills, behavioral skills, working in teams, managing conflict in teams, managing stakeholders. All of these competencies are sometimes not covered in an engineering curriculum. So it's really valuable to provide some educational content. And this global curriculum framework will help you to deliver that. I don't have to go into the details of the curriculum. It consists of specifications, several courses that can be blended into your existing engineering curriculum. You can simply mix and match them because the framework is pretty flexible. There are 30 knowledge modules, for example, stakeholder management, or project planning, or life cycle, or risk analysis, and risk and opportunity analysis. All of these are knowledge modules that can be embedded into any existing capstone course, any existing engineering course. For example, you might be teaching a course on cost engineering, but you may have the opportunity to embed some techniques on top-down estimating and bottom-up estimating. So these 30 flexible modules can be embedded into anything you have to deliver a well-rounded curriculum. The volume 2 especially might be of interest to you because it has 200 pages worth of elaborated foundational course in project management. Here you have the opportunity to see a sample curriculum for different countries, a sample curriculum for different domains, sample research paper assignments, as well as many case studies. All of these are free if you are a qualified academic, and you can once again download them from pmiteach.org. So the key contact, if you have curriculum-related issues which are architecture-related, is myself, canabar@bu.edu. But if you want further involvement from Project Management Institute, you can email pmcurriculum@pmi.org or email the sponsor directly, carla.mesicomer@pmi.org. Carla is the business sponsor, and she is the person who has funded the entire for-faculty, by-faculty effort. This has been incredibly successful, more than 6,000 downloads since it has been launched in February 1st. More than 6,000 faculty members have downloaded this, and PMI has now agreed to fund a second iteration of the resources called PM-2, which focuses on the soft skills, the interpersonal skills, the behavioral skills. So this project is going to receive even more substantial funding. So with these kind of resources, we can teach well, we can manage projects, whether they are lifelong learning in nature or whether they are just something of interest to us in our courses as we deliver our capstone or internship courses to our students. So this should come in handy. So thank you, Krishna. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, I'm going to reflect in an overall way here, and I notice our sponsor is looking at the watch, and we are getting you on track. So we'll take a little bit, we deliberately were efficient in our presentations, and my colleagues in the Indo-US collaboration know that whenever I have meetings, I go make sure we stick to time. And the reason for that is we have time now to discuss, have a little interaction, rather than just a bunch of talking heads. And what you've seen is a very small window into what we have been doing in the last 5, 6, 7 years through a collaboration between about 200 or 300 faculty from all over the world, mainly from the United States, people like Dr. Stephanie Farrell and Vijay Kanabar and myself, and with about 80 to 100 engineering colleges out of the 4,000 engineering colleges. So there's a long way to go, but working with about 80 engineering colleges, and here you see one example of one of the engineering colleges in Bangalore, and working in various dimensions to build an ecosystem with this global collaboration that would, on the one hand, improve the quality of engineering graduates coming out of these institutions in India, but at the same time it benefits the people from the United States and other parts of the world who are interacting with us by bringing back some of the good things and collaborations and networks that can lead to improvements. And so the focus of today at the International Forum is two key words. One is global collaborations, and the second is lifelong learning. And what you've seen from our speakers today is Dr. Stephanie Farrell talked about how innovations in teaching and learning, through starting with simple things like workshops, but then not stopping there, but going on to develop various research-based outcomes from those workshops, and then building into a certification and a longer-term engagement in the process of improving teaching and learning with a learner-centric approach. And you've seen some examples of how we have done that in this collaboration. And then Professor Kanmani has pointed out that in India, they have now the members of the Washington Accord in outcome-based education. And one of the, as you know, from in ABET itself and in the NBA attributes in India, one big sentence in there about the attributes is lifelong learning. Our students, our graduates should be able to be engaged in lifelong learning. And so you have seen some examples of she has herself introduced in her classrooms, and her colleagues have introduced ways in which they can encourage students to become lifelong learners, so that when they get out there, they are continuously learning throughout their life in various topics. And then you've seen that Professor Meena has talked about how this collaboration between industry, the community, and having some specific projects will train or educate the students to think about how to expand this classroom education into something they can take into life later on. And actually just use an example of some of the assistive technology projects that they're working on. And then finally, Professor Vijay Kanabar has emphasized the importance of project management, because everywhere, all of these topics that we talked about require the students should have not only technical skills, but also soft skills, the team skills, the collaboration skills, the planning skills, all of these in order to come with to do an excellent job of the particular project. And in fact, one interesting thing about this particular project management skill is that in India, the accreditation agency has included that as an important part of the graduate attributes. And so a lot of emphasis going on in that area. So with that, I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to use what my favorite guru, Richard Felder, uses in situations like this, where you're talking head in front of students. So use the think, pair, share approach that all of you might be familiar with. I want you to, because we have about 20 minutes to do this. So I want you to think a little bit. Okay, reflect on what might be a point you want to raise in this discussion. It could be with us or among yourselves, just on this issue of global collaborations and lifelong learning. Maybe you have some excellent examples yourself that you might want to bring up, which complement or supplement what we're doing. And so think, I'll give you 30 seconds to just think. Nobody's going to talk, nobody's going to raise their hand. Then we're going to say, okay, talk to the person next to you, pair, with some of the ideas. And we'll let you chat a little bit there and create a little buzz, and then we'll raise your hands and we'll talk, okay? 30 seconds, dead silence, think.
Hans, you are first.
Okay, spend some time with the person next to you. chat with the person next to you, please, for a little while about this session, Global Collaborations, Lifelong Learning, something that you want to share with the person next to you. Please, hear the buzz.
Yeah, but we'll wait until the end.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Those brain waves are starting to move.
I like your diagram. How did you get that?
Which one?
The one where one guy was bored.
It's there in the internet.
That's that one's online.
I have also written long back active teaching. Nothing has changed. Like that same picture, I had put it in one of my papers.
You've used it too. Yeah, just Google University of Bologna, 1300s. Yeah.
So all that has changed now is that board has become black to white. Maybe pen has become
Right. Yeah. We go to PowerPoint now instead.
But still the teaching is the same. No change.
Okay, let's bring it back. It's tough to stop. Okay, those of you who are, this is like preaching to the choir. I know all of you have probably tried this before many times, and you find it very effective. See, this guy in the front doesn't even want to stop here. So he's going to keep Hans. You're back.
Now we are moving slowly. Little.
Put the main,
Just
put the main slide back.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. So, I know this is speaking to the choir. All of you, use this technique, I know, in your classrooms all the time, and I've been using it a lot ever since the first workshop that I attended of Richard Felder, who, by the way, how many of you don't know who Richard Felder is? Okay, there's nobody in this room who doesn't know who Richard Felder is, but if you don't know, then we'll chat at the coffee break and I'll tell you all about him. But we took him to India, once in Richard Felder and Rebecca Brent, once in 2008, for a workshop as part of this program, and once in 2009 again. And since then, I don't even know how many hundreds and thousands of faculty all over India have been using what he had learned, what he has taught them. And I think he's kind of like a guru of, if there's one person in this world who's really made a huge impact on Indian education quality, I would say, that's Richard Felder. But anyway, let's have a little discussion. Raise your hands. I know some of you now. Yes. Could you? Is there a mic that works? Yeah. Please tell us your name and your affiliation and your question and your comment.
Kim Scalzo from the State University of New York, or SUNY. I'm also the president of ASEE. Will be speaking next. And I wanted to come back to the reference that was made in the presentation about the ABET element of the standard on recognizing the value of lifelong learning. Because in some of our discussions, we have heard that there's consideration for removing that from the ABET standards. And I'm just wondering, I'm not sure that I can give you an exact reference for that, but I'm just wondering if anybody else has heard that or is aware of that or could comment on that. And I'm told we have
the source here.
So, because
Michael Milligan is here, Executive Director of ABET.
So am I wrong, or is that really on the table?
That's right.
Okay, well, thank you for bringing that up, I guess. Obviously, lifelong learning is a critical component of students, and the appreciation for lifelong learning probably is really what it is of a student's education. However, the explicit assessment of it is going to go away because it's a very difficult thing to assess. And ABET, when teams come to visit, they like to see, like to prove what you're doing and so forth, and show evidence of what you're doing. And that one in particular is one that's very challenging, I think, to assess. So the new criterion 3 and 5 are out for review, and you can see them on our website. And you won't see explicit reference to lifelong learning. Okay, but obviously it's an important aspect of students' education and so forth. Now, in addition to that, Washington Accord, through the graduate attributes, explicitly asks for that type of thing, and of course we're signatories of that. And so, we want to promote that as obviously as part of part of that agreement, but there's been no decisions made, so there's no yes or no at this point. It's just a consideration. And by the way, you're certainly welcome to make comments. We encourage comments from the public and others, so please do that. Okay.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Mike, yeah, question, comment here, Vijay?
Sigrid Barker from the University of Rhode Island. I very much enjoyed all of the presentations about the Indo-American collaboration and the new student-centered learning and faculty innovative strategies, how to teach and so on. But I was wondering, is this a one-way street of the U.S. Research-based outcomes of how to best teach, how to best learn, importing these to India, or is there any way that we could also learn from the way Indian universities have educated their engineers? I mean, I've encountered a lot of Indian students that were simply brilliant and entrepreneurial, and I'm wondering if there is a way of making that a two-way street. What is it in the Indian system that has worked so well? Are you looking at this too, or are you mainly sort of importing what was successful in the US to India?
I'll let the ladies up there maybe make some comments. You want to get a microphone? Bring back the mic.
I mean, what has helped us is we have not changed our curriculum in the first step. We have introduced small changes in the classroom or in our assessments, and we are now having platforms to present these small changes in the teaching learning process that happens. And maybe through publications that happen in the conferences in the engineering education domain, the WEEF that was held last year in Dubai. We also plan to contribute to the forthcoming event that happens in Florence. And the other conference, the ICT, that conference, again, the conference is not restricted either to participants from India or from US. I think everyone can share their experiences in the conference. So I feel it has just brought...
Let me interrupt for a minute, okay? I think a very important question has been raised. I think we need to focus and right on that issue. Is this a one-way street, or is there something that in engineering education in India can teach the rest of us as well? And I'm sure there are things like that. That's really the focal point here. And I'd like each one of you to, Meena, you want to comment on, is there something in engineering education in India that in the United States and other parts of the world that we can learn from?
What I personally believe is through the collaboration with IUC, we brought in structures to measure the learning that was not there earlier. And what I feel is we had the system, Gurukul system, of education, which is prevalent in India over the years, where the student connect with the teachers, stay with the teacher and learn a lot of things, blend with his life and learn life skills. Life skills they learn through the association with the teacher. Those things still continue, and it's only that we have brought in structures in place which has helped us a lot in measuring the learning. So and we also have systems where people get connected with what's happening around in the Gurukul system. The students look at what are the problems that are there associated in the environment and how they can tackle. So these are systems that were existing over the ages, but a lot of things we have learned a lot through associations with other countries and other systems too.
Let me expand on that word that she has used, Gurukul, G-U-R-U-K-U-L. Most of you know what Guru is, G-U-R-U, Guru, teacher. K-U-L, Kul is a community built around the teacher. So it's essentially, goes back to the ancients when these gurus used to sit under a tree and then a bunch of students around them and they formed a little Gurukul in the old days. I think that concept of teaching, a community, a real community, has been there in the past, but I think it's there some places also. And I think, like Stephanie, you've been going to India back and forth a lot, and you have done a lot of interaction with the Indian community. Maybe you have some thoughts on this?
Yeah. So I can give kind of a lower level response to this regarding some ideas that have emerged from my interactions with colleagues in India. And this is just an opportunity for joint collaborations in research and engineering education. So a couple of the things that we've talked about with Krishna is doing some joint collaborations on spatial skills research, which is something that's been done primarily in the United States, but there are a lot of factors. Spatial skills are a set of cognitive abilities that are very important in the success in science and engineering. And they've been studied primarily in the United States, but there are a lot of factors that go into the development of spatial skills, and some of those factors are very culturally dependent. So we've talked about starting some international research in that area. And then another thing is the studies of recruitment and retention, which, you know, I'm most familiar with the studies in the United States, and then there have been some in Europe looking at factors that affect retention in engineering. And in India, it's a very different situation, and I think that we can learn a lot. A lot of the factors there are also cultural, and my understanding is that there aren't really a lot of problems with retention because students who get into engineering, they stay. And so maybe we need to look at issues of satisfaction and academic success. But I think there are probably a lot of similarities and a lot of differences, and we can learn from each other there.
Yeah. So we'll take another comment. Let me add a quick corollary to what, and then we'll go on. And one of the things that I've noticed is the women in engineering. Most of these colleges have 50% women, and 40 to 50% women. And so there's something there, maybe that we can see, is there a cultural thing there that encourages more girls to get into science and engineering in India compared, and you see represented here are 2 faculty members. But again, after they graduate, go into society, that's a different matter again. Again, you get into all the hang-ups about women and men in society later on. But at least in the universities and colleges, you have a large number of girls. Maybe there's something there. The fascinating for math and science is something that we don't have that problem in India as we have in this country, you know, where youngsters are not afraid of math and science. I think that's another thing that maybe there's something culturally in there that you can learn from. Comment from there, and a few more comments. I've got
Hi,
here
good
for 5
morning.
minutes. Yeah, go ahead.
Dr. Manoj Kumar from NMIMS University, Mumbai Shirpur campus. Of course, it is somewhat encouraging, but I have experience of 25 years working with all kinds of engineering colleges, and since last 15 years, I am associated with so-called one of the good university. What ma'am said is not really true for all engineering college, and the fact is, yes, the students who acquire these kind of skills are moving outside the country for particularly higher education, and we see particularly US is a paradise for higher education, and we make our student and when a lot of stuffs are given to them, particularly we have more credits than number of hours, contact hours, compared to undergraduate courses in any other country. Number of contact hours are more, then even contents are more, but then we have to see that really whether all the students understand or not. So of course we need to work out. Yeah, fine. So my question is the lifelong learning, how it is measured after they pass out from the college or for institute, and really did we keep track of that in some way? University in US also.
I don't think we may not have the answer. Let's try it, and let question to everybody. How do you measure lifelong learning, outcomes of lifelong learning? How do you measure it? Okay, let that be the final question that 1 or 2 people might jump in on, and we'll wind up this session. Any comments on how you would measure lifelong learning outcome?
I think Mike pointed out that's a big challenge. How do you measure
how do you measure it?
Especially when you're looking at graduate attributes.
Right. Anybody else have any comments on how do you measure lifelong? Here, there. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Anna Friesel from Technical University of Denmark, and actually I'm also the president of a European organization for electrical and information engineering, and we have made a project which I presented for 2 years ago at the International Forum about lifelong learning and recognition of the lifelong learning. What we found out in this project was there are several differences in European countries. Some of the countries can recognize actually practical and theoretical learning, even that it was not at the university, by having commissions which give you credits and allow the people with practical experience easier to get a degree. So there are some countries, and especially I can say France is in advance. They have commissions which can recognize the credits or learning knowledge on all levels, Bachelor of Engineering, Master of Engineering, and even PhD of Engineering. I will present another project today, but you're very welcome to contact me about the other one.
Thank you. Okay, I think with that, I guess I'm getting the signal here that we need to wind up. So thank you all. Thank you to the speakers and the organizers, and appreciate the great session we had.